Welcome back to another Purpose Served podcast episode. I'm your legendary host, Darren Wingfield. Thank y'all for tuning in. If you're new to this podcast episode, or this, excuse me, my voice is a little raspy. My bad. But if you're new to this podcast is simply about inspiring you to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be by innovating and improving the human experience, this thing that we call life that we live in. Today's podcast episode is going to be a special one, as with all of them. This is going to be going back to one of the Serve Your Purpose classes that I've done. Probably, I did this class, I want to say, going on 2 years ago. Probably like around July, August of 2023. And this class was centered around mind control and MK Ultra. Please do your homework on MK Ultra, MKULTRA. And MK Ultra was pretty much a mind control programming that was started by the government, funded by the government. And there was so much going on in that time period, like in the 50s and 60s specifically, where a lot of people were getting knocked off, swimming with the fishes. And you got people like Malcolm X, MLK, Jimi Hendrix, JFK, the stuff that was happening in Hollywood with Charles Manson and those people getting knocked off. It was just a lot. But the one thing that was introduced around that time is programming. Television sets was getting pushed in people's homes, where it went from like a luxury to like a necessity. It was a common thing for people to have these television sets in their living room. Also, music was highly influential around that time, and the message, music has always been influential, but it was a certain message that was being pushed around that time. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And there's something about radio and television that when you push in certain narratives through airwaves, how that can be hypnotizing in a literal sense. Not figuratively speaking, but quite literal. And over time, this set in the motion of where we are right now to this day. Because you got to think about this. It went from television sets being in a living room to TVs being in two rooms to pretty much there were TVs that was going to be in every room to now we got miniature TVs in our back pockets that we carry every day, and we can't leave our house without them. And I'm talking about our phones, our smartphones. And technology is advancing at a rapid rate. And for those that's living outside of truth, there is going to be a huge issue that's going to reach the surface and going to smack us right in the face. And that issue is going to be dealing with how technology may be used in the future in the wrong hands, especially with the development of AI, artificial intelligence. So, yeah, buckle in. This will be a crazy one. So, what was going on around that time? in our history when MK Ultra was getting popped off. We're just coming off of World War II. We've had some nukes getting dropped. And this started bringing into a couple of major conflicts. Major conflicts is already at an end, to be quite honest. I'm not no history nerd, but I do love me some history. Shout out to all the people that are interested in history out there. But there was a lot going on. There was so much going on. We have the Vietnam War that lasted for a pretty long time, pretty much 20 years, starting November 1st, 1955 and ended April 30th, 1975. We had the civil rights movement that was starting to get popped off. And we also started with like different social groups because of politics and a lot of like racial divides that was going on, such as the Black Panther Party. And so many of these things have been shifted in such a negative lens as time went on. And without us doing the proper, I guess, research and looking back on how these things played out and how it got us here to this day, history is inevitable for it to repeat itself in a more even detrimental way if you don't even know how you got into a situation in the first place. And I truly believe that the things that we're experiencing now in this present day and age, is not like racial problems or political problems. We truly have a humanity problem. We have a humanity issue. And when during that time period, you had hippies that just started like entering the scene, that was preaching peace, love, and happiness. Man, dude. Man, but that was a part of the psyops. And the reason why I'm saying that is going back to something that I said earlier, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That was literally the vibe. And the message was being free of the establishment, being free of the government, but it was doing it in such a harmful, detrimental way. I was just talking to a close friend of mine, shout out to Johnny, man, who has helped me a lot on this journey. But when I was doing this class, it was in his shop, his barber shop. This man is a networking genius, man, but he also is a business owner. And he runs a barber shop, and he opened up his establishment for me to do this class. And the other day, we got into a deep conversation about the people's souls being restless. And when you chasing your passions, that's a surefire sign of you having a restless soul, a restless spirit. You can't sit still and you feel like you need to be doing something. And for majority of people, a lot of people, that makes them run in the dark and they're running towards a brick wall at lightning speed and going nowhere fast. Right? And for the most part, this takes the mind of the youth. And we're going to be going into what the passions are. I've been speaking about the passions as of late, like a lot. And if you go on my YouTube channel, I've been doing lives every Sunday. And one of the lives I did about 2 weeks ago was talking about the passions. And if you're seeing this right now on YouTube, there's this book I've been reading called The Ascetical Homilies of St. Isaac the Syrian, who was a Christian monk living in obviously the Syria area, and he was talking about the passions. So we're going to be reading a little bit from this book and what the passions are. And I was talking to Johnny about this in the shop, about people being restless and feeling the need that they need to do something, and they're attaching to things that they shouldn't be attached to. So during this time period, LSD, people were taking hallucinogenics, thinking that that's the wave, shrooms, all of that. And also, like I said, there was a lot of things that was happening where people were being influenced so strongly to go counter against the quote unquote government, that ultimately they were just simply going against themselves, thinking that they was free, but really they was a slave to whatever it is that they was passionate about, and causing and stirring deeper issues that was going to carry over to the following generation. And that generation was going to carry that pain over and their soul sickness to the next generation. And thinking that binging, drinking, smoking, and drugs is going to be the way that gets you free, it's not. It's going to only enslave you and trap you in whatever darkness that brought you there in the first place. And another thing, the Black Panther party started off as a positive thing, but then as time went on, these same dudes, as generation goes on, and you do your homework and you do your history on it, these are how gangs get started. Where first they're protecting their neighborhood from, white people, and keeping their community safe from injustice from the police. But then, in a twisted turn of fate, in a short amount of time, they are protecting themselves from each other. And now the problem comes from an outside source, and now it's self-inflicted. Now they're protecting each other from each other. And now they're killing each other. Now they're selling each other poison. They're selling drugs to each other. And this happens so fast and so quickly because the foundation in the first place wasn't even right. And the media that we consume nowadays is perpetuating these same problems that was well present in the 50s and 60s and was ruminating way before that. And the issues that we are finding ourselves in is not new. It's as old as humanity itself, from being deceived by outside things. We have to be mindful about this. And the message of the day that I'm trying to preach, and I've been preaching for a while now, is that you have to escape the outside sources of media, of music, and honestly, other people. You have to reverse that light within yourself and figure out what is holding you back and what are you attached to. What I'm about to read to you guys is incredibly profound. Excuse me. Yet again, oh my God. So what the... But it's incredibly profound. Yeah, I'm about to just read to you guys. So, like I said, I'm reading from the book, The Ascetic Homilies of St. Isaac the Syrian. And in this book, it goes through 77 homilies. And a homily is pretty much edification or instruction on spiritual living. So, yeah. This dude was like a dude that did his soul work to the best of his ability and didn't seek fame, didn't seek glory from other people. And if he did, if he did seek glory and fame and riches from other people, these profound truths that I'm about to read to you would have never ever came about. But everything that I just named, he was seeking it from God. And he also knew that this was going to be an internal thing in itself. This is why I keep telling y'all to go within yourselves and use the senses of your heart and your mind. And he talks about this in his book. The senses of all senses is your heart. And going within and find a light, which points to Christ, to be straight up. And he points to the Father. And by this exact order, you will have a way to seek the kingdom of God, seek the kingdom of the heavens. And wouldn't you want that? Something that you can't possibly put into words how good and great it actually is. And there's good out in the world. I don't want to put out there that this world is a bad place. It's just what we're turning it into. And that wasn't the intention. And not only that, there's actually hope in the world by you living out the truth, by serving your purpose. And your purpose is an internal indicator for the service that you must partake in from the act of God. So yeah, we are going to be going to, I believe, homily 2. World is a collective noun which is applied to the so-called passions. But if a man does not know first what the passion the world is, he would never come to know with how many of his members he is distant from the world, and with how many he is bound to it. Many are the persons that with 2 or 3 members have parted from the world, and curb themselves with respect to these, and suppose themselves to be strangers to the world and their way of life. This, however, is because they neither understand nor prudently see that with 2 of their members they have died to the world, while their remaining members live within the body of the world, for which cause they have not even been able to perceive so much as their passions. And since they have no awareness of them, neither have they made an effort to heal them. So what is the members? Our 2 members that can be pointed out is what we see and what we hear. Those are 2 members. And there's a physical sense to this, and there is a spiritual sense to this. Most people look at things from a physical sense, right? Going back to the 50s and 60s, they thought they was looking at it from a spiritual sense, but they were deceiving themselves, and they fell into passions. So hear me with your spiritual eyes, your spiritual ears, and see me with your spiritual eyes. I'm going to continue on reading. By contemplative examination, the world is also called the aggregate of the collective noun, which is applied to the separate passions. When we wish to give a collective name to the passions, we call them world. And when we wish to designate them specifically according to their names, we call them passions. The passions are portions of the course of the world's onward flow. And where the passions cease, there the world's onward flow still stand still. These are the passions. Pay close attention what I'm about to read and what I'm about to say. love of wealth, gathering objects of any kind, bodily pleasure from which comes the passion of carnal intercourse, love of esteem from which springs envy, the wielding of power, pride and attractions of authority, stateliness and pomposity, human glory, which is the cause of resentment, fear for the body. Wherever these have halted in their course, there, in part, to the extent that the passions are inactive, the world fails from its constitution and remains inactive. Thus, it was with each of the saints that while they lived, they were dead. For living in a body, they lived not according to the flesh. Examine in which of these passions you are alive, and then you will know in how many parts you are alive to the world and how many you are dead. Profound. So, the world is, in a nutshell, sin. And for those that don't know what sin is, which is a lot of people don't know what sin is, they hear it and put such a negative connotation on it. And it is somewhat negative, but it means to miss the mark. That's what sin means. It means to miss the mark. And ultimately speaking, you could collectively miss the mark. And the world is filled with ways to miss the mark. Because of one thing that I want to point out, it says the passions are portions of the course of the world's onward flow. So onward flow is what's outside of you. And you want the flow to be inward. And to do this, you must be dispassionate. You mustn't associate with any of these passions. And I'm going to read to you yet again what these passions are. All right. So these are the passions: love of wealth, gathering objects of any kind, bodily pleasure from which springs envy, the wielding of power, pride and attractions of authority, stateliness and pomposity, human glory, which is the cause of resentment, fear for the body. Now, he points out also that wherever you are alive to these passions, you are also dead to your body. And you must die to this world in order for your body to live. Sounds paradoxical, but if you think about this, we've been conditioned to live in a paradoxical way. We've been living to chase things, to acquire material things. And the one thing that I preach all the time as well is you can't take none of the materials that you gather with you when you enter the grave. And you have to transition into this next life over. And by you holding on to these quote unquote things, these materials, and the love of your power that you acquired for yourself, the positions that you place yourself in, what does that look like to God? Are you weighing yourself down where earthly matters? Or are you making yourself light, symbolically and literally speaking, and spiritually speaking? Because I want you guys to truly understand, we are in the middle of spiritual warfare at its highest degree. And going back to the two lenses that I spoke on, you got your spiritual eyes and you have your physical ones. Right? In the Bible, in the first book in Genesis, you have two people that are Abraham and Jacob, his grandson. When around the time when they accepted their true calling of God, their name changed. Before Abraham was Abraham, he was Abram. And before Jacob, well, Jacob was Jacob before he got a spiritual name, but then he got the name Israel because he wrestled with the angel of the Lord. He struggled with him. That's what the name means. And he wasn't going to let him go until he got his blessing. We have to learn how to use our spiritual eyes to see what's truly going on and the direction that we're going in. Because it's nuts. Crazy enough, is first and foremost influencing the youth. That's what all of these programs and all of the mind control start with. They start with the youth. You can't teach a old dog new tricks. You're not going to be able to teach an old person pretty much anything new because for the most part they stuck in their ways. But the people that you can mold are kids, are children, are teenagers, are young adults. And that's what shows are geared towards for the most part. That's what music is geared towards. That's what the culture is geared towards. And then with foresight and foreknowledge, we also have to understand that these kids is going to be our future leaders. They're going to be our future police officers. They're going to be our future lawyers. They're going to be our future world leaders, like all across the board. And going back to artificial intelligence, we're not going to know what's real and what's fake. And they're being brought up in this world and highly conditioned to not know what's up. And we as people have to do the best that we possibly can to get ourselves right in order to help out the younger ones, in order to help out our family. We have to purify ourselves and detach from the things that we're passionate about to find our true calling, to hit the mark instead of missing it. And there is still a beacon of light. I know that there is. This journey of living your highest calling and walking in your soul's purpose and healing yourself from the soul sickness, which let's call it a mental health crisis, quote unquote. But it's really deeply a soul sickness because our heart is not right. Our heart posture is terrible. We don't look at another person as ourselves. We don't look at humanity as a reflection of ourselves. We just look to take from other people. We are become extremely jealous. Human interaction is starting to become truly unhealthy because we communicating through means of technology rather than it being in person. And then we have to ask the deeper question, is that what they're programming us to live life as and make us easily controlled? And you have stored within you so much wisdom and so much understanding. And you have to let go of your anxiety. You got to let go of your fear. You got to let go of your grief. You got to let go of your depression. And that doesn't necessarily mean block it out. Go through it. Accept it when it comes. And don't identify when it do come. Because it's internal. All of it is internal. And then with the lies that they've been telling us, you got to ask yourself, are your feelings and your thoughts lying to you? And that's the part that has to get purged. That's the difficult journey of every day you got to be active in this battle to the best of your possible ability. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. Hardest thing you could possibly commit to. Yourself. But in order for you to help the people around you and help the world around you, you have to help yourself first. If you do it in your other order, it's a lie. That's a lie. Don't be brainwashed out here. Go pick up a book and actually read. Please don't get your information from reels off of TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, X, Twitter. Do deep research and then ask your soul, is this true or not? And also, divine scripture will also help as well. And look for the truth. The message as of late, and I'm going to leave you guys off with this, is to love the Lord your God and to also love your neighbor as you love yourself. By you doing that one little act, it's going to make a huge difference in your life. Huge. Guaranteeing it. Yeah. Man, but simply dead serious. By you doing that, you serving your purpose, man. Truly. You have a vision inside of you. You have a vision. It's not going to come from outside of you. And once you have that vision, it's giving you a destination. And between that vision that's internal and that destination that's external, right? You're going to have to walk that journey to go and carry that whole thing out. And purpose served, we call that awareness in motion. Going from your vision to the destination. It can't be stuck in here. It has to find a way to get released and emanated outwardly. Inward flow, outward flow. But that's all I have for y'all. Love y'all, man. And yeah, serve y'all purpose. We out of here. Last but not least, deuces.